Hello, everyone, and welcome to your next topic, Topic 4. You've reached this topic because you've accessed the course notes and therefore reached the link to this video. Please make sure that you download the course notes to your device of choice. Don't just rely on accessing them through Brightspace. You never know when you might lose access to Brightspace unexpectedly. Let's get going. So the topic for today, as I said, is an introduction. So we'll touch a little bit on it because it will be a springboard for future topics we'll cover in this course. Specifically, we'll start getting more familiar with part 3, fire protection, occupant safety, and accessibility. So make sure you have that open with you as you go through your course notes and this video. What we're going to do with today is learn how to calculate the occupant load for a space. That is part 3. In a previous topic, we reviewed how to distinguish whether or not a space or a building is part 3 or part 9. From this point forward, unless we make a change, we will be dealing with part 3 buildings. So first of all, what is the occupant load? Well, the occupant load can be defined as the number of people that a space is designed for. Makes sense, right? Okay. If you go to table 3.1.17.1, you'll find a table that helps with the values related to occupant load. It is expressed in numbers, depending on the occupancies, with units, square meters per person. Okay, so basically, depending on the occupancy in this table, you'll see that more or fewer people are assigned per square meter, per unit area. Or another way to look at it, as in this table, is more or fewer area is assigned per person. Okay, all right. How do you find this table if you can't use tabs or write in the Ontario Building Code? I bring this up because technically my expectation is that you don't add tabs or write in the Ontario Building Code before you start objecting to this. I recognize that when it comes to real life, if you had a building code and you were using it in an office, on a building site or job site, of course you would write on it and make notes, right? You might even add tabs to it. Well, for the purposes of where we are right now, we're not dealing with real life. As students, or as a professor and you as students, the whole point of this course is for you to learn how to use the building code. And you must do so by being able to find the relevant information within the building code, okay? And that includes not adding tabs, not writing in it. Furthermore, if you have to write exams related to the building code, which you may for the purposes of your job, think, say, if you're an inspector or if you offer specific building code services that must be licensed, you have to write building code exams. Well, you can only do that if you bring your building code to the exam, if your building code, both volumes, are blank, like virgin. They can have nothing in it, no tabs, nothing written in it, okay? If you do, you won't be allowed to write those exams. So, any event, I recognize that in real life, that's silly to ask you not to write in the building code, okay? But the purpose of this course is for you to learn where to find the information in the building code, okay? Anyways, you have your building codes at home, and the decision is yours. If we ever end up doing any exams in person, my expectation, if you do these exams in persons with me, is if there's anything written in your building code, you're not allowed to use it. If there are tabs in your building code, you're not allowed to use it. And by it, I mean the building code. So if we have to do an in-person exam, you won't be allowed to use your building code. I'll confiscate it. You just have to do the exam on your own. Okay? Anyways, let's do this. Let's learn. So what do you do if you cannot write in your building code how to find this table, or you're not allowed to have tabs? Well, every portion of the building code, every part of the building code, in this case part 3, has a table of contents at the front on the very first page. So you can use that as a way to find any relevant portion of the building code. The second method, and the one that I prefer most, is by using the index. The index in your building code is quite good, so I would recommend using that too, getting familiar with using it. The one thing that I want you to note about the index is sometimes, depending on what you're looking up in the index, it will give you multiple pages or page references that you can go look up. So until you get good at this, you might have to look all of them up until you reach what you're looking for. Lastly, and this is the one that comes with experience, once you get good at this and if your business involves dealing with the building code, you'll just be able to flip to the right portion of the building code. Really. Okay, let's do this. So let's learn by doing an example. Let's learn by doing. We have, in this example, which is also reproduced for you in your course notes, an office space with an area of 1,000 square meters. You are asked to determine the occupant load, that is, how many people are expected to be in that space according to part 3. Well, according to this solution, which is also reproduced in your course notes, the factor, as in the area per person according to table 3.1.17.1, is 9.30 meters squared per person for office space. So please go to this table and confirm that's true. So now that we have an area and we have this factor, we take the area, 1,000 square meters, divide it by this factor, right? Because the factor is in meters squared per person. When you divide these two numbers, meter squared cancels out, and you're left with people or persons as the final answer. I usually shorten this as PP. So 1,000 square meters divided by 9.3 meters squared per person is 107.5268172 people. Now, I'm obviously being silly about this, okay? You don't have to write out all those numbers after the decimal point. You could just stop at the first one or the second one. Okay, I'm just being silly about it to illustrate a point. This number is silly and ridiculous. You can't have portions of people, right? When you're counting people, when you're calculating people, people are whole numbers. So what this answer is telling you is that you need more than 107 people for this space, right? Because you're getting 107 and then some. So the answer is 108 people. Or you can also short form that to PP for persons. Make sense? Okay, let's do another example that is a little bit more involved, but that I've also properly solved for you in your course notes. So make sure you download your course notes. You ready? Let's do it. Let's determine the occupant load for the 4th floor of our ACE building. So for you, I've uploaded to Brightspace the drawing in PDF format for the 4th floor of the ACE building. Okay, so I'm showing it for you here, but it's very, very small, right? Go look it up on Brightspace and make sure you review it as you're doing your calculations to see where I got all the numbers from. What I'm going to do for this floor of the ACE building, in order to calculate the area, I'm going to look at the space in blue, okay? And then I'm going to subtract that open foyer, right? The 4-story foyer, right? I'm going to subtract that space that I'm showing here in white. Okay, let's do it. So I found that the area for this space is 1,713.33 square meters. I solve it in quite a bit of detail in your course notes. So go find out how I did it if you're unsure. Let's solve this. If we know the area, then we have to go to table 3.1.17.1 to find out the appropriate factor for this, which is, in this case, 1.85 meters squared per person. I go in a fair bit of detail in the course notes in how I came up with this value. It involves figuring out first what the occupancy is, the major occupancy of the fourth floor of the ACE building, and how I got that. So if you're curious, because you'll be asked to do the same thing for tests and final exams, go check it out. So to calculate the occupant load for this area, I take the area and I divide it by this factor. So 1,713.33 square meters divided by 1.85 square meters per person gives us 926.1243, and I skip the rest of the decimal places, okay? You don't have to write them all. The whole point is that this answer is telling you more than 926 people. So that means that the occupant load is 927 people. Okay, so make sure that you do this. You're now ready then to move on to the final question from homework 1, which is question 4. You can now do it. And that should cover all of homework 1. You should be able to now do all of homework 1. It's also uploaded for you on Brightspace. A couple of points that I want to make, because these are tips that will help you not make silly mistakes. 1, a common mistake in these kind of questions is to multiply the area and the factor as opposed to dividing it. Right? If you multiply it, it won't work because you're multiplying a number, an area in square meters, and a number, a factor that's in meters squared per person. If you multiply those two numbers, you have to multiply the units. And if you multiply the units, you get meters to the power of 4 divided by people. That obviously doesn't work. Okay, that's the most common mistake for these kind of calculation questions. The second most common mistake is to leave the answer with decimal places, right? And forgetting that humans are whole numbers. Humans are whole numbers. You can't have portions of a human, okay? So the second most common mistake is forgetting to give an answer in whole numbers. Make sense? Great. That's it. So we've made it to the end of this set of course notes and topic. Please make sure that you download the course notes for this topic to your device of choice. Don't just rely on accessing them through Brightspace. Thank you very much for your time, and take care.